In Endgame, when Tony went back to the past and met his dad, Howard Stark, and Howard told him that his wife, meaning Tony's mom, is pregnant, hearing this, Tony got so confused, as if something really big had gone wrong. You might have ignored this thing, but he was confused because, according to his calculations, he should have already been born by then. But he wasn't. And listen, in Iron Man 2, Howard had told Tony, "My greatest creation is you." What is it? And always my greatest creation is you. And here, creation could also mean that this guy, whom we thought was Tony, wasn't actually Howard Stark's biological son at all, not his real son, but in reality, Marvel has been fooling us for the last 15 to 20 years. The guy we thought was Tony Stark was never actually Tony Stark. He was actually Victor Von Doom. He was right in front of our eyes, but we couldn't recognize him. And believe me, if by the end of this video our minds don't explode into 4 pieces, then go ahead and dislike this video. But I believe in this theory, and I'll also give you proofs that our Tony Stark was never actually Tony. He was Victor Von Doom. So let's get straight to the start. Now, everyone was thinking that Marvel, out of desperation, cast RDJ back in the Doom role. But bro, Marvel didn't cast RDJ out of desperation. They cast him because RDJ was already playing Victor Von Doom right in front of us for all these years. Well, first of all, let me tell you that way before Tony Stark, back in 2005, RDJ had auditioned for Victor Von Doom in Fantastic Four, meaning the role of Doom was actually in RDJ's fate. Although he didn't get that role back then, today, after about 20 years, that dream of his has come true, as he's going to play Victor Von Doom in reality. But the reason isn't this. The proof I'm talking about that Tony is Victor, I'll give that later. I mentioned this just to tell you that the idea of making RDJ Doom in Marvel isn't something new. It's been going on for 20 years. And this idea was already in the minds of Kevin Feige and some high-positioned people at Marvel. Now, keep this point in mind. I'll talk more about it later. It's important. But recently, the Russo brothers also said that they weren't planning to return to Marvel because, although there's a lot of cool stuff to do in Secret Wars, the Russos couldn't find that one idea, that entry point to start the story, which would be absolutely perfect and bring them back to Marvel. But finally, they heard an idea related to RDJ and Tony Stark. What that idea was, I'll tell you later. They heard that idea, and bro, their minds were blown. Yours will be too. I mean, literally, the entire Marvel team's minds were blown, and everyone got straight to preparations. Now think about it. An idea that activated the entire tired Marvel team, kicked Kang out, got RDJ paid $100 million, and announced Doomsday and Secret Wars. How big and epic must that idea have been? So, what was this idea that brought RDJ and the Russos all back together? Well, first of all, let me confirm for you that bringing RDJ back isn't some desperate move by Marvel. RDJ is the actor who can play Victor Von Doom in Marvel. Plus, with this idea, there's no problem with Doom's setup anymore. Because a lot of people were thinking, unlike Thanos, Doom hasn't had any build-up in the MCU. Blah, blah, blah. But bro, after hearing this idea, you'll say, man, Doom's setup has been going on in the MCU for the last 20 years. So look, here's the theory, guys. Doom First of all, He Who Remains, and all the variants of Kang, like the Council of Kangs, He'll hunt them down, and He's fully justified in doing so. I mean, His hunting them down is right because, and I've told you this before, because when He Who Remains created the secret timeline, meaning 616, in that process, He silenced all the other timelines, meaning Doom's timeline was also silenced by He Who Remains. Because of this, Doom is really pissed at Kang and wants to hunt him down. But it's not just that. This was the reason why Kang is out and Doom is in. But the real craziness starts even beyond this. See, a lot of people still believe that Victor Von Doom will just be an evil Tony Stark variant, meaning a Tony Stark from some other universe who went crazy, turned evil, and set off on a villainous path. Instead of becoming a hero, he became a villain. But actually, the case is just the opposite. The Tony Stark we've been watching all these years was actually a variant of Victor Von Doom, meaning RDJ, whom we've been considering Tony Stark all this time, wasn't actually Tony. He was a variant of Doom. Now, it sounds really fun and twisting, but there's a big reason behind it. I mean, you can't just randomly defame Marvel's biggest hero and call him a villain. So, bro, there are a lot of reasons, but you've ignored all of them. You know, Marvel connects stuff from 10 to 10 years ago into the movies. That's why, in the beginning, I told you about Tony being shocked hearing Howard in Endgame, and Howard saying to Tony in Iron Man 2, "You're my best creation," meaning Marvel teased Doom in these tiny little things years ago. But the question is, if he was Doom, why did everyone call him Tony? And why didn't his reality ever come out in front of us? The hand behind this was He Who Remains. Now, listen very carefully here, or you'll get confused. He Who Remains had already fought and defeated Doom before ending the multiversal war. Before He Who Remains ended the multiversal war, RDJ's Doom lived a normal life in his own universe. He spent his entire life in his universe, fought many wars, even fought He Who Remains, but he lost. Again, all these events happened before He Who Remains ended the multiversal war. And then, after defeating Doom, He Who Remains used Alioth's power to end the multiversal war, as he explained. After defeating Doom, He Who Remains created the secret timeline from Citadel, which lies beyond time, and silenced all the other timelines, including Victor Von Doom's timeline as well, meaning the timeline where Victor Von Doom existed as Doom. He Who Remains silenced it, or you could say, kind of ended it. And then, when he recreated a new timeline to ensure he wouldn't have to face Doom's threat again, Kang made sure that Doom would be adopted by the Starks, meaning Howard Stark and his wife, and raised not as a villain, but as a hero in this new timeline. And later, when he becomes a hero, obviously, he won't be a threat to He Who Remains anymore. Meaning, Tony Stark isn't actually Tony Stark, but we think he's Tony Stark, and the hand behind all this was He Who Remains. And all this, bro, makes full-on sense when you look at the past Marvel movies. Even the reports coming from insiders perfectly fit into this theory. This theory explains why only RDJ can play Doom, and why RDJ's Doom is now coming back with the evil Avengers. Because all this is revenge for what Kang did to Doom? It's the opposite of that. Think about it yourself. Kang turned Doom from a villain into a hero by getting him adopted by the Starks. And now Doom will assemble all the Avengers, meaning the heroes, and turn them from heroes into villains by manipulating them. And if you look at it, hiding Doom's real identity from him, forcing him to live a fake life as Tony Stark, all this is what Kang did to Victor Von Doom. Because of this, whatever havoc Doom is about to wreak against Kang and everyone else, he's fully justified in doing so. I mean, they say villains are not born, they are made, right? So, bro, this line fully fits Victor Von Doom, or you could say the Tony Stark imposter. I mean, in a way, Kang himself created Doom. And if you're shocked hearing all this, then bro, now it's time to bang your head. Listen to this. Why did Marvel start its franchise with Iron Man? Why didn't they start with Spider-Man or X-Men? Why did they choose Iron Man? Because in the 90s, Marvel was going bankrupt, and they could only afford the license for Iron Man. That's why they sold off the licenses of their other popular heroes to big studios like Sony and others. That's why even today, this fight over licenses and rights keeps going on between them. Meaning in 2008, when the Marvel franchise started with Iron Man 1, Marvel didn't have the resources to take back X-Men from Fox or Spider-Man from Sony and include them in their MCU and make their movies. Spidey and X-Men were way more popular than Iron Man and Captain America at that time. But RDJ brought Iron Man to the top, made its popularity #1. And because of that, Marvel kept growing and growing. And Kevin Feige himself used to think that one day there'd be a time when Marvel would have one universe, a universe where Spider-Man, X-Men, Iron Man, all of them would exist together. A universe that would be like the comics, with all Marvel characters from A to Z present in it. But they couldn't do that earlier, because X-Men was with Fox. Spider-Man was with Sony, meaning there must have always been a universe in Marvel where Spider-Man, X-Men, and all the other characters existed together. But ultimately, some villain, some Kang used his powers to silence that universe, that timeline, and created a secret timeline where everything got messed up. A timeline where there were no X-Men, where Spider-Man came in much later, where Venom didn't exist, and where Doom was Tony Stark. Now, maybe you're getting what I'm saying. Meaning this 616, this secret timeline, in that, Doom is the Tony in front of us. In that, Spider-Man came much later. X-Men don't even exist in it. The X-Men that exist are in Earth 1005. And all this mess is because of whom? He who remains. He silenced the other universes, and earlier, there used to be one universe, an original Marvel universe where X-Men, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, meaning all the heroes from A to Z existed. That universe actually existed, but he who remains silenced it and recreated the secret timeline in a way. So this 616 that's in front of us now, the way it's been shown to us for all these years, it wasn't always like this. There were a lot of changes in it. And now maybe you've also understood why Marvel's reboot is necessary. And after the reboot, the new Marvel Universe we'll get to see. Spider-Man, X-Men, all the mutants, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Captain America, all of them will exist together. Meaning, this soft reboot will happen in Secret Wars itself. Why will it happen? And why is it necessary? You've probably understood that from what I've said now. Meaning, from Kang to Doom, X-Men, Spidey. All these characters are perfectly covered in this theory. And not just that, The reboot that'll happen after Secret Wars is super essential. And after that, we'll get back our original Marvel Universe, the one that Kang silenced by creating the secret timeline. That universe where mutants, Spider-Man, Venom, Fantastic Four, and all the other heroes will coexist together. That's what the Marvel reboot means, and this theory explains everything like that, from He Who Remains to Loki to Tony Stark, who was Dr. Doom in reality. He was Doom, but he was raised as a Stark. But this theory also leaves behind a lot of questions. The biggest question among them is, if Tony Stark is actually Doom, then where is the real Tony Stark? And what is it that makes this Doom into Tony Stark? I mean, the one we've been liking as Tony for years. Should we just accept him as Doom in a second after hearing the theory? This question has definitely come to your mind, and it's a completely valid question. So look, the Russo brothers clearly said in an interview that the story of Doomsday and Secret Wars will challenge the fans. So I think this will be that challenge. When the story tells us that the one you've considered your favorite Stark for 20 years, the one you clap for at every entry, isn't actually who you think he is. So yeah, it will be a big challenge for us, the fans. But still, the moments we've gotten with Tony Stark where we thought of Stark as Stark, those moments, no one can take them away from us, man. Now it's just being changed because Marvel's actually about to pull off the biggest twist in its history, or I think in the entire history of world movies. And all will be shocked, like those who've watched this video of mine or somehow found out about this theory elsewhere. They'll at least go in prepared. But the fans who don't know, which is a huge number, they'll all be completely shocked, right? And the casual Marvel fans who don't dive so deep into everything, they'll definitely be super shocked too. So I think this is the challenge we're going to get from Doomsday and Secret Wars. And coming back to Stark, I feel like when Howard Stark's wife was pregnant, something must have gone wrong at that time. And maybe the real Tony Stark's death happened in the womb itself. But because Howard had to carry forward his legacy, his name, his business, all that, he hid it from the world and adopted Victor Von Doom from somewhere and gave him the name Tony and raised him as a Stark, as a hero, which again was He Who Remains' plan. Howard Stark and his wife didn't know that he was actually Doom and that his identity was actually that of a villain. They just knew that they adopted a child and raised him as a Stark and as a hero. And even though Victor grew up as Tony Stark, even though he didn't have Howard Stark's DNA in him, by following Howard's principles, he moved forward in life like a real hero, achieved everything. And despite having everything, when it came time to sacrifice in Endgame, if that guy wanted, he could have taken a really dark turn at that point, like, why do I always have to sacrifice? I have a daughter too. I have a wife too. My life is finally fulfilled, but still he chose to die like a hero. And that's what makes Victor Von Doom Tony Stark in our 16 still. Now, because this theory establishes that RDJ's Tony wasn't the real Tony, that means a real Tony will come from some alternate universe too, who'll be played by some other actor. And obviously, I think that'll be Tom Cruise. And if you're still not satisfied with the proofs I've given so far, let me give you one more really big proof. We've talked about this before, that Tony Stark, who took years to develop his Iron Man suits, to upgrade them year after year, he did research upon research and upgraded the suits step by step, that Tony Stark invented time travel, which is not just the biggest invention on Earth, but in the entire universe. The most mind-boggling thing, how did he invent that in one night with a snap of his fingers? It's something to think about. I mean, it took him years to develop the Iron Man suits, but he invented time travel in one night in Endgame just because the Avengers asked him to. So this is something to think about. And the reason, again, is this Dr. Doom. You know, too, that in Marvel, his signature area of expertise has always been time travel. Always. Pick up the comics and see. Dr. Doom is a master of time travel stuff. And because of that, all the Dooms in the multiverse, in all the universes, will be masters of time travel stuff. And that's exactly why our Tony, who was actually Victor Von Doom, didn't know he was Victor, but subconsciously, because he was Doom, that's why he was already an expert in time travel stuff. And that's why he invented time travel in just one night with a snap of his fingers. And yeah, one big problem that people are saying that RDJ's Doom didn't have any setup, no build-up. Well, bro, this theory perfectly solves that problem. I mean, Thanos was mentioned in post-credit scenes in several movies shown, had cameos, and also he had a pretty good setup. Doom's name wasn't even mentioned anywhere. But when Doom comes in and later we find out that, bro, the one we've been thinking of as Tony for the last 20 years was actually Doom. Then Doom was dancing right in front of our eyes for 20 years. So, bro, Doom's setup has been going on for 20 years. I mean, he's already gotten a setup way bigger than Thanos. So, this build-up and setup problem for Doom, this theory, solves it super easily. And I think RDJ's statement, new mask, same task, is also proof of this, that the mask will change now, but the work will stay the same, because that person is the same. Doom was Stark. So now the reality has come out. The secret's been revealed, because of which the mask will change now, but the task will still stay the same. So yeah, I'll do more deep research on this, dig into Marvel's past movies, and pull out evidence bit by bit. But the main points I've told you about right now, definitely think about them. Doomsday and Secret Wars, don't think that since they're part of the multiverse saga, they're a completely different story from Infinity War and Endgame. No, the entire story will continue from Endgame and be connected to it. The only difference is that we haven't understood how these threads were connected until now. But now we will, and it'll come together really well. And when all these reveals happen in the theater, believe me, bro, people will forget Endgame. Doomsday and Secret Wars will be groundbreaking. And along with that, one request, please like the video and please subscribe to the channel so you never miss the latest MCU updates. And I keep getting inspiration from y'all. So guys, that's it for today. Whatever thoughts you have about this theory, please let me know in the comments.